Okay, stop and imagine this for a second. You're finally flying home, staring out the window, totally normal. Just waiting for the boarding call at a massive modern airport like Copenhagen. Routine, dull, totally safe.
Right, just another day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Until suddenly, you hear the sudden, high-pitched panic. Not a bomb threat, not a mechanical failure, but something silent, something tiny that completely breaks the entire air traffic control system.
Ruins. Wow. Just like that.
Just like that. This quiet attack just shut down Europe's critical transport. And the most terrifying part, nobody knew who launched them. This level of coordinated silent attack changed the risk factor for every European citizen overnight. Welcome to The Military Point, your ultimate source for sharp insights, analysis, and updates from the world of defense and modern warfare. Before we continue, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? We'd love to know. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more updates. Today, we are deep diving into how this aggressive new hybrid war strategy is making the conflict in Ukraine feel terrifyingly real on the home front, and why the confusion it generates is, well, maybe the most dangerous gift Vladimir Putin could ask for.
What's fascinating here, really, is the sheer audacity. I mean, the scale of disruption achieved without firing a single traditional bullet. Our sources point to a deliberate shift, bringing the war to millions of Europeans simply by disrupting their ability to travel, their supply lines, and their sense of security.
Yeah.
The first sign wasn't a bang, but that sudden halt you mentioned, in Copenhagen.
That Danish disaster is the perfect example, isn't it? Low-level intimidation that has this massive psychological impact. You had airport closures triggered by a small-scale drone activity. It forced PM Mette Frederiksen to come out and declare that Europe needs to accept more violent and frequent hybrid attacks as a new reality. That's a pretty stark statement.
It really is. But here's the crucial nuance, I think. She pointed to Russia as the main threat in the region, right? But she specifically avoided naming them as the direct culprit for that drone chaos.
Oh, okay.
That hesitation is key. Why not point fingers immediately, if you're so sure?
Right. That lack of clarity, as you mentioned, is the actual weapon. It sort of paralyzes us with doubt. If the attacker can't be immediately identified, they can't be stopped, and the motivation becomes clearer. Versions suggested their goal is to make us no longer trust our authorities.
Exactly. If society doubts the government's ability to protect basic civilian stuff like an airport, the attack has succeeded. It doesn't matter if the inconvenience was mild or massive.
The doubt itself is the win.
Precisely. And if the initial chaos in Copenhagen felt like a test run, our sources suggest this pattern quickly scaled up across the alliance. Let's look at the sheer geographic breadth of this low-level intimidation.
Okay.
We saw the mystery of over 20 drones sent into Poland. Why that number? What were they mapping? Still unclear.
20 drones.
Yeah. And then you have the quick 12-minute airspace violation over Estonia. A top U.S. general, Alexis Grinkowicz, even suggested that this might just be poor training by Russian pilots.
That introduces a perfect moment of, wait, what? Poor training? Really?
Yep.
Or is that exactly what they want us to believe?
Well, that's the question.
Because days later, you had the massive hacking attack grounding various flights across Europe. To suggest that the airspace violations and the infrastructure hacks are unconnected coincidences, I mean, it strains belief, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It really does. And this is where the insider information gets crucial for our deep dive. Even as Danish officials were dealing with days of airport confusion, sources reported spotting a Russian military vessel sitting just off the coast with its transponders off.
Oh, come on. That's deliberate.
Intentional opacity. It's no surprise that PT, the Danish Police Intelligence Service, which handles counter-sabotage threats, then announced that the risk of Russian sabotage in Denmark is now considered high. They are actively preparing for domestic attacks.
Okay, so if the skies are murky and confusing, the ground war is even more sinister. Because now the conflict is being fought on the streets of NATO countries, sometimes using our own citizens.
Yeah, that's the scary part. The specter of state-sponsored sabotage has crept over mainland Europe, and we have to prepare for more.
How does that work?
Well, the UK example highlights how warped the recruitment process has become. Sources detail how young, even gang-like criminals were recruited by Russia.
You're kidding. Gang members?
Yeah. Their task was shockingly simple and destructive: setting fire to a warehouse holding supplies destined for Ukraine.
Wow.
This isn't high-tech espionage. It's organized crime meeting outsourced, state-sponsored hybrid warfare. Low-tech, high-impact.
And the response shows how seriously Western governments are taking this shift. Those individuals were convicted under the UK's ferocious National Security Act. This is key Because this law is designed not just to punish criminals, but to treat hybrid actors, even low-level arsonists, as direct threats to state security. It recognizes that the source of the danger is a foreign power.
Right. It reframes it.
It's jarring to think that the espionage threat isn't happening in some Cold War bunker, but right in a suburban estate like Essex, which saw recent arrests of a 41-year-old man and a 35-year-old woman under the exact same powerful law.
And that outsourcing of chaos is confirmed across the continent. In Poland, young Ukrainians were jailed for participating in Russian-sponsored arson attacks.
Ukrainians attaching Polish targets for Russia.
Yes. It confirms that Russia is successfully creating an internal network of saboteurs operating far from the front lines to achieve a wider strategic goal. It's messy.
But hang on, if the source material suggests it could just be opportunistic criminals, people seeing chaos and taking advantage, aren't we potentially giving Putin too much credit by automatically calling every single hack or fire a state-sponsored attack?
That's a fair point.
Hacking attacks hit airport check-in software, yes, but also places as mundane as a London nursery. Was that really Moscow Center?
And that's the brilliance of the weapon, if you can call it that. The blurry line is the strategy itself.
Ah, okay.
Regardless of who pulled the trigger, the Moscow agent or the opportunistic criminal using the confusion for cover, the outcome is the same. The spread of vulnerability and chaos,
Right.
enabling Putin to bring a palpable sense of conflict right to Europe's doorstep. That uncertainty is the primary goal.
And that uncertainty immediately hits the budget, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the price tag and the strategy. This chaos is cripplingly expensive, creating a massive political trap for Western leaders dealing with, well, already strained budgets.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this hybrid turmoil forces Europe to spend on two major fronts simultaneously. First, greater resilience hardening critical infrastructure against these low-level drone and hacking threats.
Which costs a fortune.
Yeah. And second, they must fund a wide-ranging, constant, and incredibly expensive aerial defense across the entire eastern border. These tasks pull millions, maybe billions, away from other defense priorities.
Okay, let's get into this drone math because it's unbelievable. It illustrates the absurdity and, frankly, the unsustainability of modern defense cost perfectly.
It really does.
You have a cheap, maybe $30,000 Shahed-type drone, essentially flying polystyrene.
Right, basic tech.
Pitted against a Dutch F-35, firing a missile worth tens of thousands of euros just to shoot it down. What's the strategic implication here? Is the goal simply to drain NATO's missile stockpiles? Make us less prepared for a conventional fight?
That seems to be a huge part of it, yeah. That cost exchange is mathematically unsustainable over the long term. Europe faces an impossible, awkward choice. Spend millions monthly for robust, infinite defense of every inch of NATO airspace.
Which you can't really do.
Right. Or simply stop intercepting intruders because the cost per kill ratio bankrupts them and drains their inventory faster than they can replenish it. This is the new financial battlefront designed for attrition.
And that ties directly into the political paradox facing Western officials every day. The costs of supporting Ukraine suddenly feel very palpable in European homes through delays, inconvenience, rising prices.
It's not abstract anymore.
No. And this amplifies the noise from two opposite sides. Those who argue appeasement is the cheaper route, and those who say this growing aggression means we must double down immediately, spend even more.
And there's a strange irony here, too. The non-lethal inconveniences like airport delays and hack attacks are, without irony, kind of comparable to those felt by ordinary Russian civilians.
Huh. Never thought of it that way.
In the very nation that launched the unprovoked invasion. This creates a psychological sense of shared discomfort, which could undermine Western resolve over time.
Okay, now for the twist in the strategy. This isn't all a guaranteed win for Putin. There are major risks inherent in outsourcing this chaos that could spin the conflict right out of control.
It's definitely not all roses for the Kremlin. The substantial risk is that their outsourced saboteurs, these young criminals or spies, may be competing with each other for favor, trying to impress Moscow overstep.
How so?
What if they accidentally kill a civilian in a NATO country during a fire or a chaotic hack? That immediately triggers Article 5 discussions.
Right, that changes everything.
It changes the entire complexion of the war. That is an escalation the West simply couldn't ignore.
And the flip side is equally dangerous. The risk that Russia is blamed for things they genuinely did not do, maybe just regular organized crime cashing in, and that this accusation provides cover for genuine criminals to expand their activities, hidden behind the mask of geopolitical tension.
Exactly. The confusion cuts both ways, making any governmental response incredibly difficult to calibrate. Do you react? How strongly? Against whom?
But the biggest, most massive, unpredictable factor looming over this entire strategy has to be the former U.S. president, right?
Oh, absolutely. The Trump factor. The sheer scope of his unpredictability means he could react in multiple disastrous ways.
Like what?
Well, imagine a hybrid attack hits Denmark, and instead of reacting defensively, he pulls U.S. assets out completely, arguing the Europeans should handle their own crime problem.
Or
Or, conversely, he could massively overreact, launching a disproportionate retaliation against a Russian civilian target instead of a military one. Completely unpredictable.
that kind of wide-ranging, erratic unpredictability.
Yeah.
That's exactly how larger conflicts start. It injects massive instability into a system that is desperately trying to maintain stability right at the edge of the conflict zone.
And what's fascinating here, maybe a final point on this, is that Putin himself is historically not a fan of stark, high-risk moves. I mean, he expected a
Yep.
quick takeover in Ukraine, right?
Yeah, that was the plan.
Our sources suggest he appears to have only escalated recently against Kyiv and Europe after that, well, that chummy summit with China's President Xi Jinping.
Interesting. So external influence pushing him.
It suggests that perhaps external influence is pushing him toward greater recklessness and driving this new level of danger. It might not just be his playbook anymore.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, living in this new reality? The short-term takeaway seems clear. These hybrid attacks successfully impose a palpable sense of cost and confusion on ordinary Europeans.
It feels real now.
Yeah, it creates a massive short-term distraction that is absolutely a win for Putin right now. Europe has been given a new set of expensive worries for which there is no easy culprit or cheap fix.
It's a battle of attrition fought with bureaucracy and budgets, fundamentally. It distracts from the core mission of supporting Ukraine's front lines. We're constantly caught between the risk of not intercepting cheap threats and the unsustainable financial cost of infinite defense. This is the new financial battlefront of modern warfare, fought in spreadsheets as much as in the sky.
You've been listening to The Military Point. Stay sharp, stay informed, and we'll catch you next time.